Happy July 4th, everyone, and welcome to my July garden tour here in Zone 7A, Western North Carolina. Let's get started. Okay, normally I start out front on the north side of the house, but the sun is horrible out there right now, so we're going to start here on the southeast corner of the house. I got two main beds and then a little small bed in the center, a few things on the periphery. Alrighty, well, we'll just start on the center first here, and then we'll get the two beds off to each side. I'll try not to just totally repeat my previous tours and focus more so on things which have started blooming and all which weren't blooming the last time. Here in the center is a Baptisia, Candelabra Baptisia, which has already finished blooming. And the only reason I'm really showing this kind of bad looking plant is to let you know about why it's broken off. This was like 2 foot taller than that, and it bloomed and started forming seeds on it. And I'm sure the birds come and light on here trying to get the seeds and broke out the branches. The reason I'm pretty sure it's birds and not deer is because the branches would be broken out and laying there, all the leaves intact, where the deer would have ate the leaves. So if you've got this stuff here and you don't want the birds to break it down, probably it'd be a good idea to deadhead it after it finishes blooming. The three plants flanking it are the Sonic Pink Weigelia, which actually have started to do pretty well. I think eventually these will be big shrubs which will fill in this area. I'm confident in that. However, they really have not done very well pollinator wise. They could be on their way out. I've got more of these than just these three, or I might just leave these three and take some of the other ones out. I'm not above leaving a few plants that the pollinators don't like, but I don't want too many, such as when we get over here on this bed on the left, the Hyperium higcoat, which I've already covered. I've got, oh goodness, I've got 9 plants of this stuff which the pollinators were supposed to like, and it's not their fault because I have really checked the blooms. There just is no pollen in these blooms. No, as far as I'm concerned, no nectar, no pollen. So can't blame the pollinators on this one. So definitely out of 9 plants, I don't need more than 2 of them. So 7 of them will be going. See, there's 2 right there, 2 over there. You got this nice cattle panel double arbor here, 2 cattle panels with the grapevines on it. This particular grapevine here died all the way back, so it's came back this far. So far here this year, don't know how good it's going to wind up doing. This particular one, I did know the name of all of these, and I've forgotten, except this one that is done by far the best. And as you can see, it'll soon be, well, it actually is over my head, it'll soon be midways on this arbor. This is a Candice grapevine, and it's going to be tempting if the other 3 don't do any better. See, here's the 2 on this side. If the other 3 don't start shaping up, this is going to wind up with 4 Candice grapevines on it. I've already got another Candice grapevine in a pot, which I was going to replace and put right there till that one did come back from the ground. The only reason that it's not already got 4 Candice grapevines, healthier grapevines than these other ones, is I kind of did want a variety of grapevines. But if the other 3 are not going to perform, I'm going to have to take them out and put Candice all the way around. Okay, here in the middle of this bed this is pineapple sage. It's about 1 foot tall right now. I've got 2 of them in pots, plus some other ones which did overwinter last winter. So, which surprised me. It's right on the edge of where they're supposed to come back. But they came back. There's some Cleome that's blooming. I'll show a better example of it where it came up in cracks on the front garden in a little while. right here is some purple giant hyssop. I planted numerous purple giant hyssop, numerous Mexican Sangria hyssop. This is about 8 inches tall, 9 inches tall. Hasn't bloomed yet. There's another one right there. But I'm hoping for good things out of it. We'll see. I do know, don't water this stuff. In my area, don't water it. Because if you water it, in addition to what it, the natural rain that we get here, it will die. I've had about a third of what I planted just gave up the ghost and died. Right here is a standing cypress. Supposedly forms these rosettes the first year, and the second year it sends up a bloom spike. But mine here in this bed have sent up the bloom spikes in 1 year, formed a rosette, and sent up bloom spikes all in 1 year in numerous places. I'll show examples of it elsewhere. But this bed here, man, in the main is just the, there's a lot of things in it, but the predominant feature of it is this Verbena Bonariensis. Here in Zone 7A, the Verbena Bonariensis apparently is going to be a perennial. Not only a perennial, it was evergreen all year. It kind of, it flopped over and stuff and didn't have any erect branches hardly on it, but the rosettes of it were evergreen all last winter. Of course, this is 7A. We had probably a Zone 8 winter last year. 4 or 5 degrees was our low. It surprised me. It came back. And there's more standing cypress down there. This is a blackadder agastache. I'll show a better example of it later on. Now here is something. You see this plant right here, the yellow, really gold leaves with the maroon type of center. I want to show it really good because I need some help identifying this thing. The stems of it are kind of purple looking. It has what is it? Not alternately. Ever what the opposite of alternate leaves is? Opposing leaves on it. Here's a close-up, and then I just broke a stem out of it. Didn't mean to do that. But I would say lance-shaped leaves, which there's the veining, a good shot of the veining. Pretty good shot. Okay, there we go. Pretty good shot of the edge. I would call that a serrated edge. They come to a pretty good little point there on the edge. Here's a better shot of the flower. I planted Bottlebrush Plant. If you'll go back and look at one of my previous videos, I identified this as a Bottlebrush plant. And I ordered Bottlebrush plants. And this is what I've got. I actually like them. They draw just a few pollinators, not that many, but I do need something in this bed that has a contrast to the Verbena Bonariensis. I mistakenly planted along with the Verbena. See, I thought the Verbena was just going to be an annual, and I like it so much I'm not going to get rid of it. I planted, let me come over here on this side. Oh, by the way, this is my additional Candice Grapevine here. I also have a couple of tomato vines in here. My veggie garden this year, which I won't even bother showing, but I'm drastically revamping my clay soil some out there in it. So really so it's just kind of a summer-long project where I work on it ever so often. And not gonna plant anything there other than I got one hill of squash and one tomato berry plant. So I've got 2 pretty nice looking tomato vines here. These are Cobra tomato plants. It's kind of a variety that a lot of the commercial growers grow, which, it sounds like I'm defeating the purpose of home gardening by planting a commercial type of variety. However, a lot of the bad taste of commercial tomatoes is the fact that they're picked so early on the vine. It's not necessarily the fact that there's anything wrong with the variety. I have just awful problems with blight here, which so far these have pretty much zero blight that I can see. I'm hoping a commercial variety might be less susceptible to blight. Here's something new. This is a 4 o'clock plant. I planted 4 o'clock seeds, sort of like the red feathers Echium. One came up, and this is that one, and it is really a super healthy looking plant. It's about 14 inches tall right now. Hasn't bloomed yet. Butterfly bush. It's Royal Candles Veronica. This is really a nice example of the rosette that the standing cypress is supposed to form its first year, and I will show you some pretty good examples of actual standing cypress blooms in a little while in 1 year, which is very surprising. There's some black and blue salvia, and here's a few wild cleomes, a little bit of milkweed there. The milkweed, my swamp milkweed, it just did kind of mediocre this year. It's blooming on a little bit low. It's already finished blooming as a matter of fact there. This little section right here, it was kind of a bare section, so I filled it in later on with a Buzz Series lavender butterfly bush. This I tried to fill it in with direct seeding Phacelia, and it just didn't work out. I just got a couple that came up, and then they don't seem like they're going to do much. I was a little late on that. And what this is right here, this plant, which I've got about 20 plants of these scattered here and there, is not hummingbird, but lemon mint, which is, I'm hoping it will have time to flower. I think it will, for at least a couple of weeks before the frost gets it. And if you don't know, lemon mint and lemon balm are two different things. I will show you an example of lemon balm here in a little while, which has more of a chartreuse green leaf, broader leaf, and it will have, the lemon balm will have tiny little blooms. Mine hasn't bloomed yet, but it will, and I'll show you the difference. But this is lemon mint. Okay, here is a standing cypress that was grown right here from seed that I scattered last fall in this bed. So as far as I'm concerned, the seed did not come up last fall. So it has formed this spire, whatever you want to call it, in one season. So that's pretty cool. Apparently it's pretty easy to scatter the seeds and get this stuff here to reseed. I've probably got 20 plants at least that reseeded. This is Scabiosa. This is a good spot for the Scabiosa. This is right on the edge of this bed, and there's a little bit of a slope, and Scabiosa just do not tolerate too much moisture. I can water this. I'm prone to overwater stuff, and if you overwater stuff that's on a little bit of a slope, it's not too awful bad. Okay, and this is the other plant I was talking about that is supposed to be a bottlebrush plant and is not. And this one here doesn't have as much red in the center, but it is the exact same plant. So you can see some red in the center, and the foliage, it's got nice looking foliage, purple looking dark stems. I've looked and looked online, and I really can't come up with a decent name for this, but I do like it. That I didn't show a good picture of the other one, but it intermingles in with the verbena very nicely, so I'm hoping it will spread a little bit. Even though it's not a great pollinator plant, it does draw just a couple. Okay, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of something here. Either the rabbits or the deer have just been going to town on my liatris. You can see here, they keep it mowed. I mean, they literally just mow it down. I know from experience last year on the echinacea, if they keep stuff mowed down like all summer long, you're likely to lose it the next winter. It'll be alive in the summer, but it won't have enough strength to make it through the winter. Like here's one echinacea plant. And I never figured out what happened here. It had some nice looking rays around that, some pink rays, and every one of them got ate off in one night, the rays. So, but that's my single echinacea plant out of about 30 of them that came back. And I think I'm going to put some kind of fencing around this small area here. Hopefully they won't eat down this stalk after it starts to bloom around front. I have had one that something ate it, just chopped it off right there, one of my bloom stalks. And here is here's a standing cypress that turned out kind of a salmony yellowish type of bloom instead of red. And that's not super unusual. I've seen some of these online with the yellowish type of coloring. And in the interior here is my either Mars Madness or Midnight Marvel hibiscus, hardy hibiscus. It will be blooming before you know it. And it will have like huge dinner plate size type of blooms on it. Let me show my peonies here. And there's 4 of them, and they're looking really, really good. This one here is like 5 inches, 6 inches tall, and that one up there, which is about 7 inches tall, did bloom. I really meant to come out here and get a picture of it, but I did not. They're the Ito peonies, which is a hybrid of the tree form of peony and the normal form of peony, made by some Japanese guy named Ito, who worked for like 30 years trying to develop them and finally did. Here's a smallish Shoal Creek Vitex starting to bloom, which I'm really liking the Shoal Creek Vitex. I got about 6 of them, better and better and better. So even though they're going to crowd out some of my other stuff when they get a little bigger, I'm going to just let them and move other stuff around. I'm not going to eliminate any of my Shoal Creek Vitex. I'm liking them. Okay, there's another view of the pineapple sage. This stuff here, the pineapple sage, I bought it originally last summer just at Walmart. Comes in just little bitty plants in a 3-inch pot. And it takes it all the way till fall before it starts to bloom, unless you take it inside and kind of overwinter it or propagate it or anything, which kind of confuses it as to how old it really is. So I've had one plant that started blooming just right out of the box whenever I set it out from my grow room downstairs. You know, which has been great, but it really has not done as good on the pollinators as I would like. Really nothing. I've not had that many pollinators this year, to be honest. I've had, you know, just a mediocre-ish amount, but not like what I would really like to have. Okay, we're going to move over here to this other bed, which, as I've stated before, last year was predominantly hot Lips Salvia, and Maraschino cherry salvia last year was the predominant plant, and 80% of that winter killed. Don't know why, but about 80% of them winter killed, so it's a little bit more bare than it was last year. I filled in some with some of the Mexican sunflowers, which only just now have started to bloom. There's one, that one there is probably already here on July 4th about 7 foot tall. And oddly enough, I've really not noticed that many pollinators on it yet. I know from experience there will be plenty eventually, and there will be a lot of monarchs on it later on during their fall migration. Okay, here is an example of the hot Lips Salvia, which already has lost pretty much all of its red bloom. and mostly just has white. And if you'll look right there, here's one that still has just a little bit of red left on it. I had the cage. This is a new purchase at a plant from a plant sale. Rudbeckia Goldstrom. It would be twice that large. Probably the rabbits ate it all the way to the ground. I had to cage the thing. Okay, moving on. This was from a native plant nursery. This is Bone Set. Purported to be a really, really good native pollinator attractor. Right through here, some more Salvia Darcii, like I have shown on the back porch, which maybe I will show on the back porch. I've already filmed that. I'll cut that in. Okay, here's my back porch plants. Everything's looking reasonably good. This is the single plant of red feathers Echium I have. I planted from seed, planted a bunch of seed. One came up. Keep waiting on it to send up some kind of bloom spike. It's not done it yet. This is Salvia Darcii here, which has sent up a bloom spike. I'll show it to you here. There's what they look like. It's kind of a typical salvia type of bloom here. And let me sort of pan down there. Thing's getting pretty tall. Here's the candy corn plant. It's blooming pretty nicely. The hummingbirds do like it. They actually like it more than they do this Salvia Darcii here. Here's the hummingbird mint, which the hummingbirds really have not cared that much for. I see them nosing around on it a little, but not as much as you would think. But this particular plant has done really well this year. And here is the main hummingbird plant. Been my mainstay for several years on the hummingbirds. The Capilla, or cigar plant, and they just dearly love this. At certain times of the year, the carpenter bees seem to love it, but I don't have many carpenter bees for some reason this year, like I did last year. And here is I'll have to write it right there what that is. I've already forgotten it, but it is finally, for a long time it just had the rosette on it, and it has finally sent up its bloom spikes. I'm hoping that they get much more showier than this, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. No pollinators so far. Here is a recent addition that I've got in a fairly large pot here. This is a tropical plant, which ordinarily I don't plant tropical type plants here in Zone 7A in North Carolina. Now this is a orange Crosandra, and let's see, I think it's got the beginnings of some little bloom. I wouldn't exactly call them spikes. I'm not sure what I would call them, but there's where it blooms. This will get quite a bit longer than what it is, this little bloom head here. And this is about a zone 10 plant or so, I think. You're not supposed to let it get below 35 degrees according to some things you read. Some things you read says don't let it get below 50. Also, some things you read says don't put it in direct sun. Some things says it'll take direct sun just fine. This particular one has been taking direct sun afternoon. This is on the west side of the house. It's been taking direct sun for 3 days here, just straight from the big box store to the direct sun, and no wilt, no nothing. It's done great, and it's got like super glossy, super healthy looking leaves on it. I'm expecting big things for that. Okay, so much for the back porch. A little later, I got my Walker's Loaf catmint right here, a nice clump of it, already flowered, and I cut it back. I think it will have another small flush on it probably, but it did attract loads of honeybees. Very few bumblebees around this year, and very few carpenter bees, but I've had a decent amount of honeybees here this year. Okay, moving on, there's some more of the either hot lips or maraschino cherry, salvia. Here is a Caryopteris, which is blooming actually a little early this year. Here's the Maraschino cherry salvia bloom right there. We have a black knight butterfly bush. Here is, even though I've got other Shoal Creek Vitex just as old as this, this has always been the healthiest and best looking one of all of them. It's probably 5.5 foot tall. It looks taller right on this video because it's on a little bit of a ridge there in the center of the bed. It's starting to rain on me. I'll be lucky to finish this. Right here is Jupiter's beard. Last year I had to cage this, but so far this year the animals have left it alone for some reason. They've been liking the liatris so much, I think, that they're leaving it alone. Here is 3, and these have done great. These are about 2 foot tall. This is 3 of the Buzz series lavender butterfly bush. I need to do a little bit of deadheading on it. I moved them from the center of the garden since they are a dwarf type of, or dwarf or semi-dwarf type of butterfly bush. Supposedly will not get any taller than 4 feet even if you did not cut it back or anything. And I had a little trouble identifying this particular salvia last video. I have convinced myself anyway that this is an East Friesland salvia, and the honeybees have really liked this pretty good this year. And I did deadhead it just a couple weeks ago, and it's already sending out, you know, a decent new flush blooms. Not bad. The foliage has held up better than most salvia nemorosa type of species. I'm really not sure if this is a nemorosa or a Greggii salvia. Let's see if I can come over here. I got a hummingbird moth. Nope, it's gone. Sorry about that. Okay, continuing on. Here's more of an example of the anise hyssop, giant purple hyssop. Okay, here we go. We've got man, it is raining now. But we have here some black adder agastache, which is doing great. I did have this in a couple of different places. This is the place for it right here because it died out in my other places. But it's spread, it's already colonizing and spreading and looking good here. And here's a different view of the Shoal Creek Vitex. It does die back a certain amount here in Zone 7A. I'm hoping we have a few mild winters where it can get a really good start. But it's looking good, looking good. All right, here we have something of it which has been attracting pollinators. Lavender, but this is a form I grew from seed 2 years ago. All I know is the seed says True Lavender on it. And yeah, it took until this year to bloom, and it's attracted a lot of pollinators. We have something here that supposedly is a hummingbird plant, royal catchfly, and it is going to bloom here eventually. We'll see. I can see hummingbirds on it. On this end of the house, I don't get out here as much as I do on the my north garden. So sometimes I miss out on what's really going on, but I'm going to really try to keep up with this on the hummingbird front. I might get me a lawn chair and come out here and park my butt in the shade and check some of these things out, see what's going on. There's some more of the Hot Lips salvia. There's May Night salvia. I've already cut it back once. I know it doesn't look too good, but that's the way May Night does around here. The foliage after you cut it back kind of does not look the best. And there is the Blue Hill salvia. The foliage looks a little bit better. Here's my Russian sage. This is just a straight species, Parastrachia. I don't know what you call it, but it's Russian sage. It's already starting to colonize an area, and I am going to let it, especially since all of my Hot Lips and Maraschino cherry salvia kind of died out in this bed. I've got a few holes that needs to be filled in. Okay, that's pretty much it for this bed. I'll just show a little pan view of it. I will show another little thing or two here on the periphery. Okay, hustle down this way. Nothing much here. This is a old Glory Lilac. It's supposed to really get tall, like 10 foot tall. This is a straight species of arrowwood viburnum. Another word that they associate with this plant is dentatum. Arrowwood dentatum viburnum. Came from a native plant nursery. I wasn't that thrilled with it. I wasn't that thrilled with it at first, but I'll tell you what, it's starting to look better and better and better. And I've actually propagated a couple so I got 2 tiny little plants I'll be putting somewhere else. And this is my tomato plant that I put here in this bed. I got out one morning checking the sun, how the sun hits of a morning and of course afternoon, and this spot right here gets more sunshine than any spot on the entire property. So with the blight that I have, I thought I would try a plant here. So it gets plenty of sun, and really it's an exposed location, so it gets good air circulation. So I'm hoping this Cobra 45 does good. And here's another thing I've been doing on my tomatoes. Of course, I plant them deep. You can plant tomatoes just super deep, and they've been planted over a month here outside. I don't water them. I plant them, I water the smoosh out of them to start with, and we have enough rain and the soil retains enough moisture to where I do not water them no matter what. Unless I see the leaves drooping, I don't water them. It's raining right now. It's the first time it's rained in 10 days, much to speak of. Gotten no appreciable water in 10 days anyway, and it's still looking really, really good. Okay, right here is the Anthony Waterer Spiraea. Had a flush of blooms on it. Had a flush of blooms is the operative word here. It's about 1.5 feet tall. No pollinators on that flush of blooms. And here's one, a Lesbideza, little volcano, Lesbideza. And I've got big hopes for this thing. It's supposed to wind up, I planted it last year only. It's just a tiny little plant, and you can see already the bag gives pretty good scale. It's 3.5 foot wide at its widest point and 2 foot tall already. It can get as tall as about 10 foot, as wide as about 12 foot, maybe even a little bit more on both of those dimensions. So we'll see how it does. It has in the fall purple blooms. This is loaded with purple blooms, kind of pea-shaped blooms. And last fall it had a lot of small pollinators, like your native bee type of pollinators like it. So I may plant another one of these. All right, moving on. Don't know if I'm gonna leave this in this location. It's probably gonna get moved. This is a double play Spiraea. Has not bloomed yet. It's small. It can be easily moved to where on that bed over there I just showed where I've got bare spots, but it's not bloomed yet, so I don't know pollinator wise how it will do. It's called double play because supposedly it will bloom at least twice during the season. And right up here, and what I would wind up putting here probably would be either the Lesbideza or another plant which gets quite large, the Bottlebrush Buckeye. I've already got 2 of them ordered, and one of them I think is destined for this spot right there. There's a mandevilla that